Hello everyone, and welcome back to the official SRL Formula One World Championship. We are here and getting ready for round 7, which is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and we are doing it on the Saturday just before qualifying, so hopefully we won't have any interruptions here today or delayed starts. Otherwise, we might see it slip into qualifying, but let's not hope for that. And welcome to everyone who is watching. My name is Sam. I'm going to be taking you through today's proceedings. We have a short qualifying session just ahead of us, and then we have 29 laps around the Yas Marina circuit here in Abu Dhabi to decide who comes out on top here today. And drivers are just slowly joining here for today's race, but we're going to run through the grid as they join. As per usual, Sandro Dulles, he is in the scarlet red of the Ferrari team, so no changes there. Then we have Alexei Koivuniemi. He is back from a one race absence, and he's going to be piloting the Alpine as usual. Jensen Randall back into the McLaren seat. We'll be looking to potentially upset the championship fight that we have going on at the top of the standings. Robin Herstadhagen once again piloting the Haas. Will be interesting to see what he can do coming off a Grand Prix weekend that actually looked very promising for the Norwegian. But unfortunately, a bit of chaos and a bit of changeable weather meant that he ultimately didn't come away with any points. Ivan Brito, he is in the Mercedes as per usual. Same goes for championship contender Tim Venting. He is in the Red Bull. Then we have Jamie Jägerström back in the Williams. Good to see the Danish driver back. And same goes for Nick van Gelder, who also last time out wasn't present, and he's going to be taking the reins of that second Red Bull seat. Then we have Nicolo Falsaresi teaming up with Jägerström in the Williams. And then we have the first of actually many reserves here today. And this is, of course, Vincenzo Torre that is going to be taking the reins of the Aston Martin, and he is substituting for Davide Russo here today. We have Jack Richards, who is another of the reserves. He is going to be piloting the Alpine alongside Alexei Koivuniemi. And then we have Season 2 champion Alex Benedicchetti, who is going to be in the Kick Sauber. There we go. And then we have last week's race winner, spoiler alert, taking the reins of the McLaren today. It is going to be Pablo Baz. He is substituting for Christian Dorman. Then we have Dion Stahl in the other Scuderia Ferrari, as per usual. And those are the drivers who have decided to join so far. But according to event organizers, we should be just about full grid here for today's race. So we look forward to that. But mentioning Pablo Baz, obviously, spoiler, if you haven't watched last week's race, it is a highly recommended race to go and watch. The Spanish Grand Prix that was, and it was won, as you can obviously deduce, by the Spanish driver Pablo Baz, who substituted for Nick van Gelder alongside Tim Venting in the Red Bull team. And he took his first race victory, not only just of the season, but in his entire SRL career. We see another driver joining here. It is Thodoris Samanidis, who is going to be the teammate of Alex Benedicchetti. But yeah, a very exciting race last weekend, so that is a highly recommended watch if you have the time for it. Definitely something I would highly recommend. And welcome to everyone who is in the live chat. I hope that you are having a wonderful Saturday. And we are very shortly going to get into qualifying. We still have a couple of drivers who are just waiting to register. We can see here Senna Herweyer in the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, or the VCARB, as we more commonly refer to it as. And then we have championship leader, at the moment at least, Jerome Adamaco in the Mercedes. And it will be very, very exciting to see if he, much like last weekend, can extend his championship lead. He obviously didn't win, as we spoke about last weekend, but even a race that threw everything at the drivers, it looked like it wasn't going to be enough to deter Jerome Adamaco from actually challenging for the title, and he also took a couple of points on both Jenson Randall and Tim Venting. So it will be exciting to see what he can do here today. And we are currently waiting for just about 3 more drivers, I think, as we just sit and wait. And if we just quickly, for the fun of it, let's have a look at the championship standings, because we haven't really had time to run through those in the build-up to the different Grand Prix. So let's just quickly do that, because it is obviously important and it is spicing up in the championship fight. So as we mentioned, Jerome Adamaco at the moment is sitting on top of the championship. He's on 122 points. He has 2 victories to his name, the most of any so far this season. And in second place it is Tim Venting. He's only on 84 points, so he is quite far behind. But a good race here today should see the Dutchman potentially move closer to his German rival. And then in third, we actually have Nicolo Falsaresi, who's sitting on 74 points. So the top 3 has kind of broken away from the rest of the grid, because in P4 it's actually reigning world champion Jenson Randall, who's sitting on 46 points. So Falsaresi almost doubled the amount of points to the car behind him in the championship standings. And quite interestingly enough, Falsaresi is the only one in the top 4 who hasn't recorded a victory this season. He has 2 podiums to his name, but that is 2 third-place finishes. So that is exciting. And then in P5 in the championship at the moment is Sandro Dulis on 38 points. And he is the first in the championship not to have recorded a podium finish this season. And looking at the Constructors' Championship, just because we can, as we are getting ready for the weekend to start here, we see Mercedes sit on top of the Constructors' Championship with 123 points. So at the moment, Ivan Brito responsible for that singular point that takes them to 123. Jerome Adamaco is the other 122 points. And in second place, it is currently Red Bull, who moved up a position in the championship based on last weekend's result and the great result that they had in Spain. And they are on 113 points, moving ahead of Williams, who are on 105 points. So it's also kind of close in the championship fight between the constructors. Relatively close, I want to say. But we are getting ready for the start here. We'll run through the remaining 2 drivers who joined as we were talking about the championship standings. But here we go. Moving into qualifying, we have some support for Theodoros Samanidis. That's always good to see. Drivers having their fan bases support them. We always like to see that. But 19 drivers here today. We have one rookie, actually, who's making his debut in SRL for this race. We'll quickly talk about him as we get ready for the race here today. And drivers are readying up, choosing their strategies for the tire compounds as we're just waiting. But yeah, as you can see, Harley Collins as well. He's going to be back here for today. He had a great race last time out. As we can see, no threat of rain as fast as I would think. Let's get some lap data here. And quickly let's have a look at the new man here on the grid. There we go. He is substituting in the V-carb, and his name is Alessandro Serpelloni. He is Italian, and he is going to be substituting for Andrea Latrella here today. So, be interesting to see what he can do here today. We haven't seen him, as we said. We don't know what he is going to be like, as we see Nicolo Falsaresi absolutely destroy the bollard through the first sector. And he is going to be the first driver out on track here today. And let's see what he can do. He has been on a good run of form, the Italian in the Williams. As a general, the Williams team has actually been doing very, very solidly over the past couple of Grand Prix. So let's see if they can keep the trend up and potentially maybe score a podium or maybe even challenge for the victory here today. And the number 99 Williams just making its way through into the final sector, this twisty section of the Yas Marina circuit. Now, this circuit obviously has seen a lot of renovation, as we see him invalidate there and destroy the bollard. And someone has to do it, because you do take a lot of curb around here, but there is a risk of potentially damaging your front wing. It doesn't seem like there's been any damage to the Williams, as Falsaresi comes around the final corner to start his first flying attempt. We just talked about, we've seen this track change a bit in its layout over the course of the years, especially going into the section we go to now. There used to be a chicane down here at the foot of the hill here. You used to turn left here. Now you just go straight ahead into this hairpin, and then it leads onto this long back straight, the first of two DRS zones here at Yas Marina circuit. And at the end of this straight you go into this heavy braking zone right here, and then you have a left-right chicane, very awkward actually when you drive it. And then you have the second DRS straight of the track. We see a lot of drivers, there's a lot of activity going on here. And then here there used to be a chicane complex, now it's just a swooping long left-hander, bit of banking, which really makes this a satisfying corner to take. But Falsaresi slowly making his way through the lap here. He's coming around to finish his lap. Needs to keep it between the white lines, not to invalidate. Oh, as we say that, commentators, because he invalidates on the last corner. So there's not going to be a lap time for the Italian here. Let's pick up... who should we pick up? Let's pick up Jensen Randall, as he posts provisional pole position, a 1:22.382. So very solid lap, or banker lap there from Jensen Randall, who really needs to start putting in a couple of performances. He's sitting behind in the championship, as we spoke about, and he is slowly but surely falling away. And if he wants to retain any chance of potentially challenging and retaining his title, he needs to start doing it now. Jerome Adamaco slots into P2, Alex Benedicchetti P3, Alexei Koivuniemi at the moment occupying 4th spot. As we see Jamie Jägerström jump to P3, Ivan Brito slotting in between Koivuniemi and Benedicchetti. We're following Tim Venting here, one of the championship protagonists, as Samanides jumps to P4 ahead of his teammate. So lap times are starting to be posted. We're just following Tim Venting here. He gets a bit of a slipstream from one of the V-carbs, and the V-carb pulls out of the way. And has he backed off his lap, Venting? The light on the back of the Red Bull is flashing. That tells me he might be recharging the battery. So I don't think we're going to see a fast lap here from Venting just yet. But who knows? Who knows? He comes around the final corner. He heads into the pits, so there must have been something wrong on that lap in order for him not to post a lap time. Let's pick up Sandro Doulis here. He's coming to the end of his first flying attempt as Harley Collins jumps to P10. Slowest posted lap so far, but it doesn't really matter. Nick van Gelder overtakes him, slots into the P10 spot. Doulis is going to get a little bit of traffic here from the Williams, but it doesn't look like it annoyed him enough. Doulis over the line and goes P3. And he is just about... well, he's close to 2 seconds off Jensen Randall at the moment. Let's actually see here. Well, that's my mistake. My math is not mathing right now. He is 6.5 tenths off provisional pole at the moment. We can see the gap here to the provisional pole time that has been posted by Jensen Randall, as drivers are heading back into the pits. Let's pick up the other McLaren of Pablo Bas, who is coming to the end of his outlap here. Last week's winner, we saw brilliant pace from the Spanish driver. What can he do here today? He would definitely be hoping for something in the top 10, ideally for himself. And who knows, maybe a chaotic race, and we might see him fighting for the front spots again. Jack Richards jumps into P10 as Jerome Adamaco improves provisional pole to a 1:22.294. So he's just under a tenth faster than Jensen Randall at the moment. We follow here Pablo Bas. Bit of a contradicting color scheme going on here. He's driving the McLaren, but he's wearing a replica helmet of Oliver Behrman's Haas helmet. So, bit of a conflict here, but who cares? He did that last week as well, and it did bring him good luck, it would seem. Now, is this Haas? Speaking of the Haas, is it going to get in the way of the McLaren substitute here today? That looks to be the Haas of Robin Herstadhagen. And Bas is closing up to the Norwegian pretty rapidly here, as Herstadhagen pulls into the pits. And the McLaren comes through the final corner. What does it do? It's P6 for Pablo Bas. That's not a bad qualifying attempt here from the Spanish driver. He slots in between the two Kick-Saubers. And it will be interesting to see what he can do for the remaining of this weekend. Let's pick up Serpelloni, who's on his outlap, just coming to the end of it, starting his first flying attempt in SRL. Let's see what the Italian substitute here at the V-Carb can do. At the moment, he's down in P16, but he hasn't posted a lap time yet. So let's see what he can do. And this is obviously a driver we are going to have to get acquainted with as the weekend progresses, because we haven't seen him before. We don't know what his pace is like. I was just told before we went live that his pace is actually pretty decent, but unfortunately his sim racing equipment that he uses is not functioning properly, so it looks as if he might be on the controller for this Grand Prix, which I can say from experience, once you've gotten used to using a sim racing wheel, it can be quite difficult to revert back to controller. But some of the best drivers we have seen in SRL have actually been controller users, so it's not that it's impossible, it's just a lot more difficult. As we see a big snap there from the V-carb. Heading into the final sector, he's locking up quite severely here. As we have a couple of drivers who have made their first attempts as well. We see Falsaresi in P4, he's jumped ahead of his teammate. Serpelloni around the final corner. He jumps to P9, so respectable lap here from the Italian rookie. That's a pretty decent attempt, if you ask me. Meanwhile, we haven't seen a successful attempt from championship title contender Tim Venting. He is currently on a fast lap. He's getting a good slipstream here from the Mercedes. I do wonder, is that Jerome Adamaco? Let's have a quick look. It was Jerome Adamaco. So the championship protagonists potentially helping each other out a little bit here. We see a big slide from the Red Bull as he heads through the chicane and then into this fast left-hander. It is a purple second sector, and I would expect nothing else as Jerome Adamaco has been displaced at the top of the timing screens as Jensen Randall improves provisional pole again by 9 hundredths of a second. My bad, it's not a tenth. But here we go, Tim Venting through the final corner. It's only P6 for the Dutchman. So even though he posted the fastest middle sector, it wasn't enough for him. As we're going to cut to Adamaco as he starts his attempt here. And through the first couple of corners here, it looks planted for the German. And he has something to shoot for as Randall improved the lap time. And it seems like the favor is being repaid here by Venting. A big slipstream from the Dutchman as he pulls out of the way of the Mercedes driver. Oh, there's a stricken Ferrari there. And who is that? That looks to be... Is that... Who was that? Oh my. So Adamaco's lap time here has been thwarted by a spun Ferrari in the middle of the track. Was that potentially Dion Stahl? No, I think that might actually have been Sandro Dulles in the middle of the track as he is back into the pits. I do not know what happened there. We're back to Tim Venting here. So avoided action taken by Jerome Adamaco to not crash into the Ferrari as he hits the pit road again. And he's not going to be improving his lap time. So drivers coming into the pits here now to just fuel up and to get ready for the final attempts. We see Samanidis as well, as Harley Collins has retired from the session. So he's locked in a no better starting position than P17 for this Grand Prix, as every single driver has posted their first flying attempts. As we follow Pablo Bas, he's on a flyer as well. Is he improving? No, he isn't. He's heading for pit road. So let's cut to Season 2 champion Alex Benedicchetti, one of the only South Americans we have ever seen in SRL, but one of the best, as he cuts the chicane here. And he was already invalidated, but not to be that guy, but I don't think that is allowed. As we see, he's wearing a Lewis Hamilton tribute helmet, it seems. But I'm not sure if that does anything for him. The number 86, Kick Sauber, As we see, he's taking a lot of curb. He's just trying to get back to start a flying lap attempt, it would seem, as quickly as possible. No, he isn't. He is heading for the pits. So let's see who's out on track. Is that potentially Dion Stahl? It is Dion Stahl who is the sole Ferrari out on track right now. So let's follow the Dutchman. Oh, big slide there from him. And he heads to the pits. Let's pick up Senna Herwaya, who's currently at the bottom of the timing sheets. Both V-Carbs at the moment, well, they were out on track, I was about to say. But it seems like Serpelloni has headed into the pits. He's currently sitting P7. So Herwaya looks for lap time here. Oh, as he hits the wall there on his outlap. And what does that do for him? He continues on to his flying lap attempt. So I don't think there's going to be damage to the V-Carb. But we're going to follow the Dutchman here, as I think he is the first of the people out on track to post a lap time. Oh, big slide there through turn 1. A lot of curb. That's not going to do him well. As we head into the hairpin here at the end of sector 1. This is actually deceivingly tricky to get the traction down here, because you're heading downhill, plus there's a bit of off camber heading into that corner, so it is a very tricky corner to get right and get the traction down. But into the chicane, Senna Herwaya at the moment. There's an big slide there from the Dutchman. I think this lap might, well, depending on what kind of lap he posted before, this might not be an improvement to his current lap. But who knows? Let's pick up Jensen Randall here. He is improving provisional pole as we speak. Improving it by 1/10. Oh, sorry, not 1/10. I keep getting them mixed up. 1/100th of a second. He has improved sector 1. And heading into the chicane here. Let's see what the Briton can do. Good traction there from the McLaren man as he heads on to the second DRS straight of this lap. And lap times need to start being posted, because there's just 1 minute left of qualifying. Through the long left-hander, he's heading into sector 3. What is this going to be for Jensen Randall? This is going to be his final attempt, most likely. So whatever lap time the Briton posts now... Oh, he invalidates! Under the hotel section, he invalidates his final lap attempt. And it's over to Jerome Adamako, who's currently in P2. He is 9/100ths of a second behind Jensen Randall on the timing sheets. But he has a full lap to try and attempt to displace Jensen Randall for pole position, because Randall is not going to improve. So let's see what the German here can do. Through sector 1, he is improving his lap time. It's not by enough though, because it was only 7/100ths of a second, but I do suspect we might see him improve ever so slightly more over the course of the coming lap. Into the middle sector chicane. He needs good traction here coming out of this corner. Keeps it between the white lines. Good traction there from Adamako. As we see, drivers are starting to finish up their laps. Jägerström locks in P5 for now. Ivan Brito in P9. As we see, there's another improvement for Jerome Adamako. We're just going to follow the German here, because is he going to be able to do a big lock up there from the Mercedes as he heads into the corner? This is where Jensen Randall invalidated. Oh, big slide, and it invalidates as well. Oh no. So it's not going to be an improvement for Jerome Adamako. It's not going to be an improvement for Tim Venting. He's headed to pit. So Jensen Randall, unless... No, Nicolo Falsaresi has also invalidated his final attempt. What about Serpelloni? What can he do? He jumps to P6. He splits the Williams. as Thoris Samanidis jumps to P8. What about Pablo Bas? He's still out on track, isn't he? He was, but it wasn't anything that was going to be good enough for pole position. So Jenson Randall, despite making that mistake on his final attempt, grabs pole position here for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which is round 7 of the SRL Formula 1 World Championship. And he has put himself in a very solid position to potentially grab some very vital points here today. It is Jerome Adamaco in P2 and Tim Venting in P3. So the championship protagonists occupying the front 3 spots. And they are closely followed by the Ferrari of Sandro Dooley's. And we've seen what Dooley's can do from these sorts of positions. As qualifying comes to an end, Sandro Dooley's locks in P4. I can't imagine he is too displeased with that result. But here we see the official qualifying result. Jenson Randall, pole position ahead of Jerome Adamaco. It's only split by 0.09 of a second. And then we have Tim Venting just about 0.2 behind Randall. Then it's Dooley's, Falsaresi, Serpelloni, Jägerström, Samanidis, Koivuniemi, and Dion Stahl, who rounds out the top 10. Then we have Brito, Bas, Van Gelder, Torre, Benedicchetti, Richards, Herweyer, Collins, and Robin Herstadhagen is going to be the tail end of today's qualifying session. So this became very interesting and very exciting for all the wrong reasons. Top 3 had a clear shot at potentially challenging and improving pole position, but all 3 of them invalidating on their final attempts. And what a Grand Prix we have ahead of us now with those 3 drivers in front. Can they keep it clean, and how will it pan out? And that is what the next 29 laps is going to show us. So strap in and get ready, because I have a feeling this is going to get very, very exciting pretty quickly. Oh my. This is very exciting. But we're just waiting for the drivers to finalize their strategies and all of that. But here we go. Formation lap has begun, and Jenson Randall in that papaya McLaren will lead the field around for this reconnaissance lap. He is followed by the Silver Arrow of Jerome Adamaco. And then we have the matte blue Red Bull of Tim Venting in P3 behind these 2. So we take a look at the strategies. The game thinks this is going to be a 2-stopper, potentially a 3-stopper. Let's actually have a look and see what tires the different drivers are starting on. So the top 7 are going to be starting on the mediums. Then we have Samanidis in P8. He's on the hards. And then we have to go all the way down to P16, which is Jack Richards, before we find anything other than mediums. So very interesting. But Sandro Dooley's, as we spoke about, he's in P4. He can't be too displeased with that, I think. And he is going to be starting in front of Nicolo Falsaresi. And then we have Serpelloni, Alessandro Serpelloni, his first outing in SRL. He's doing a very solid job with that qualifying session to outqualify the majority of the grid. It's a very solid job from him. He is ahead of Jamie Jägerström, who is back again in the Williams. Then we have Thodoris Samanidis as the lead Kick Sauber. Be interesting to see what he can do. And then we have Koivuniemi in P9 ahead of Dion Stahl in P10, the second Ferrari. The other Mercedes of Ivan Brito will find down in P11. And then we have last week's winner, Pablo Bas, substituting in the McLaren. P12 ahead of Van Gelder in the other Red Bull. And it is Vincenzo Torre ahead of Alex Benedicchetti, Jack Richards, Senna Herweyer, and the 2 Haas drivers are lining up P18 and P19 with Harley Collins leading Robin Herstadhagen here today. But we are getting ready for the 5 red lights here in Abu Dhabi. The lights are on and they go out here, and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix has begun, and it looks like it's an even start between the front two. No, Jerome Adamako pulls ahead of Jensen Randall heading into turn 1. There's a bit of contact. Oh, there's a lot of contact in the back there between, I think that might be, no, that is, I think that might have been Dion Stahl in the back. Let's have a look. Yeah, there was a bit of contact there, but it looks to be that everyone, it looks to me as if everyone got through unscathed. But Jensen Randall has retaken the lead here, but he is pressurized by Jerome Adamako for the front spot. They head into the chicane. Big braking zone there from Jerome Adamako. Runs a bit deep. This is going to get awkward pretty quickly as Jensen Randall gets the drive. Tim Venting is there as well. He's in the slipstream of the McLaren, tucked underneath the rear wing. Is he going to be able to pull any sort of move? It doesn't look like it. Jensen Randall to the inside, but Jerome Adamako, he has the drive around the outside, and he gets ahead of Randall here at the tail end of Sector 2. So a big start there from Jerome Adamako. Got the jump on Jensen Randall, and now he is leading the race here at the end of lap 1. And he's followed by Jensen Randall, but it looks as if Tim Venting might actually be pressurizing the McLaren. The 2 Williams drivers have made a huge start. They're currently sitting in P4 and P5 respectively, as Samanides picks up a penalty, it looks as if. That might be for speeding in the pit lane. We see a couple of drivers heading for pit road. Might be some damage there from lap 1, but we see a similar sight as to what we have witnessed this season. Jerome Adamako at the moment, he's streaking away in P1. He's closely followed by Jensen Randall. DRS has been activated as we see the strategies again. We don't care for him. Get that shit out of here. We see Jensen Randall, he has the DRS on the Mercedes, but he doesn't look to have the same amount of slipstream as the Red Bull behind him does. As we see Falsaresi pulling up to the back of Tim Venting here on the tail end of lap 2. So might we see one of the Williams? There's a big braking mistake there from Falsaresi, and Jägerström almost runs into the back of his teammate there, who has to take avoiding action not to crash into the back of the Red Bull. He outbroke himself ever so slightly there, Falsaresi. He lost a bit of touch there. Jerome Adamako with the fastest lap. But right now the battle for P2 looks to be the most exciting, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is for one of the V-Carbs. That looks to be Senna Herweier. Let's see, what has he done here? He has looped it in the hotel section, and we have a virtual safety car here on lap 3 because of that little incident. I don't know whether or not Herweier was hit by someone. We see both Kick Sauber's and Herweier's V-Carb head for pit road, so that tells me there might have been contact between the 3 of them. As we also saw both Saubers being in that similar area to Herweier when he had his incident. But Adamako uses this virtual safety car period to pull a gap of more than 1 second on Jensen Randall, and that leaves Randall vulnerable to attacks from behind at the moment. And Venting looks to be fired up here for today's race. He had a pretty poor race last time out in Spain, and he looks to be taking it all out on Jensen Randall here in a couple of moments. We cannot discount Falsaresi as well. He is sitting in the shadows of the Red Bull, currently being marked down by his teammate from behind, so there's no pressure from behind on the Italian. But at the moment, Venting looks to be in a position where he potentially could attack Randall at the end of the upcoming straight. He will definitely have the DRS, so it'll be interesting to see if he pulls ahead at the end of this straight or if he waits for the second DRS zone. Senna Hervaya picks up a 3-second time penalty, most likely for corner cutting. We see he doesn't go aggressively for the move, as we see a swap between the Haas drivers on the timing tower. But now do we see Venting go more aggressively on Randall. Kind of difficult to tell. It looks like the Red Bull is recharging, as we see this beautiful helicopter shot here heading into sector 3. It didn't look like it. He had the overspeed this time, Venting, but we have a yellow flag in sector 3, quickly dispatched off. It looks to be potentially, is that Dion Stahl? No, it's further up in the pack. So there's a bit of argy-bargy going on here. The mid-pack is quite compressed here. We see there's a train running from Pablo Bas, who is in P7 at the moment, all the way down to, I kind of want to say, Herstadhagen in P14 at the moment, even though the Haas drivers are ever so slightly off the back of this train. But we'll see how that goes. Are we going to see a move here for P2? Tim Venting, he has the DRS. Does he have the overspeed? Or is that McLaren just trimmed out ever so slightly more? We see a move in the background here. It is a Nordic duel between the Alpine of Koivuniemi and the Williams of Jägerström. And will the Danish driver pull ahead of the Finn in the Alpine? He goes to the outside and moves ahead again, so there's a slow move. These two will be ding-dong battling between each other throughout the entirety of the race, I think, because they kind of lost touch with the 3 drivers in front of them. Meanwhile, here, for P7, we see Sandro Dulis has made a move on Pablo Bas. And this train, which, kind of only consisting of 4 cars at the moment, or sorry, 3 cars. Can they work together maybe, to close up to the back of the Alpine? We see it actually seems like Dulis and Bas might have the overspeed on the Mercedes of Ivan Brito, who ran slightly wide going into turn 1. But nevertheless, are we going to see a move here now? Tim Venting, he's closer to Randall this time than he has been all race. It's not close enough. And we see in the background Jägerström has also managed to gap Koivuniemi behind him. So maybe he can close up to this train right here if they keep fighting and help his teammate potentially. But we'll see. We are on lap 6 at the moment as we see a move again for P7. That is Pablo Bas moving ahead of Sandro Dulis. We also see a move for P11. That is Serpelloni moving ahead of Richards. And Serpelloni, he now has 2.4 seconds up to the back of Vincenzo Torre for that final points paying position. So for his sake, he will be looking for that 1 point right now. Because I do think he was involved in that lap 1 collision into turn 1, potentially. But there's a lot of pressure here on Jensen Randall's McLaren. We see Venting. He's not letting off the gas. And meanwhile, well, to be fair, I was about to say that Aramako has kind of moved clear of these two, but he really hasn't. The gap has stayed fairly consistent, kind of fluctuating around that 2.7 gap. Might we see a move here? Oh, big lock up from Jensen Randall there, as we are riding the front wishbone of the Red Bull here. Well, technically it's actually a camera mounted on the front wing, but who cares? What I said before sounded cooler. But it doesn't look like Venting has the overspeed. That McLaren is rapid in a straight line. He's not capable of pulling ahead. Meanwhile, we see a move again. Pablo Bas moving ahead of Dooley's. These two are swapping positions left, right and center. Same goes for Serpelloni and Richards for P11. So we see a lot of DRS training, as it's more commonly known as. At the moment... Oh, Tim Benting boxes on lap 8. So he might be on a two-stop strategy here, as he is followed into the pits by the McLaren team. But it is not Jensen Vandal, it is Pablo Bas who boxes together with the Dutchman, as this camera work is amazing. I do not know if you could sense the sarcasm, but in case you couldn't, that was purely sarcastic. But Tim Benting exits the pits in P11. He has a VCARB ahead of him, 3.4 seconds, 3.4 seconds is the gap between himself and Serpelloni. And now the question becomes, when do we see the other front runners may head for the pits? At the moment, Adamaco currently sitting still just shy of 3 seconds ahead of Randall, as we see a big off there from Jägerström, heading through what is, I believe, turn 9 on this track. I don't know how they do number counting when it comes to the corner numbers, but who cares? Falsaresi is into the pits, and Jägerström thus continues another lap here on lap 9. So into the pits comes the Williams of Falsaresi. He bolts on a set of mediums, so he is definitely boxing again. And what does this do for Tim Benting? It means he moves up to P8, as he has caught the back of Jack Richards in the Alpine. And Richards is moving pretty smoothly here. I don't know what that means. Who cares? We have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is a VCARB. Is that Senna Herweier again, who has spun it? Looks as if he gets it going again, so we won't have any intervention from a safety car or virtual variation, as Venting moves past the Alpine of Jack Richards. Serpelloni! Well, if you couldn't tell that these two teams were sponsored by the same energy drink, well, I think Serpelloni made it very clear right there. Moves out of the way of Venting, as we see Herweier again has spun it into the final corner. Yellow flags are out on the start-finish straight. And the number 28, or is it the 29? I can't tell. But regardless, the VCARB looks to be having a lot of trouble here. And while we saw one VCARB help his fellow sister teammate, I'm not saying that we might see something similar. I am just saying that the VCARB brand is sponsored by Red Bull, and we have a Dutchman driving a VCARB. That is all. But meanwhile, Jerome Adamaco still hasn't pitted, but has opened up a gap of 4.6 seconds to Jensen Randall. As we see a yellow flag in the final corner, that is for one of the Kick Saubers. So we see Falsaresi cutting through the field, as we have a disconnected driver out on track. That is Serpelloni, who is right in front of Falsaresi. You see Venting has made it past Dooley's as well. So Serpelloni at the moment running in AI mode, and drivers will have to be wary of that. So we see, oh, big move here from Falsaresi. Woo. He needs to be careful here. But makes it past, well, kind of the limping V-carb, as we have a big battle here for what is at the moment P3, but I think it's closer to being the battle for P5, as Tim Ventink in the background misjudges his braking point for the final corner. But yeah, at the moment it is the battle for P3 between Koivuniemi and Jägerström. And these two have been going at each other for the entirety of this Grand Prix. So we see a bunch of drivers there. Serpoloni, Richards and Collins heading for the pits. Same goes for Senna Hervaya. So that moves Pablo Bas and Vincenzo Torre up a couple of spots and into the points. And here we are on board with Jägerström heading into the chicane, closing up to the back of that Alpine. Takes a lot of curb there. Oh, big slide from Jägerström as he tries to plant the power, but it just amounts to a lot of wheel spin. So that was very, very aggressive from the Danish driver. And that has meant Tim Ventink has closed up to the back of the Williams. And he will be hoping that he can dispatch of Jägerström as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But saying that, through this complex of corners, it's not the easiest, as Jensen Randall finally heads for pit road. And we see same goes for Jägerström, so not too much of trouble there for Tim Ventink. Has he moved ahead of Jensen Randall? He most certainly has. Same with Falsaresi. So Jensen Randall drops a couple of positions during the pit stop phase. But I do wonder, since he's only boxing on lap 12, is he going for the one stop potentially? At the moment, he definitely has a lot of work to do if that is the case, as we see a move for what is currently P2. Tim Ventink moves into the second spot, and he is currently 13.2 seconds behind Jerome Adamaco, who hasn't lost the lead since that lap 1 fight with Jensen Randall. But at the moment, Adamaco would still come out in P2, I think. I think Ventink at the moment would inherit the lead, as we saw Koivuniemi attempting a move on Ventink into that tricky section there. Alex Benedicchetti has retired in the pits. So the Kick Sauber team pulling the Colombian out of the race here today. That is unfortunate, as Koivuniemi heads for pit road as well. And there we see the confirmation that Benedicchetti has left the session. Very unfortunate for the Colombian. He qualified pretty well, to be honest. But didn't really work. And we see Adamaco as well has moved into the pits. Oh, this is going to be... it's not going to be as close as I thought. I thought it was going to be close between Randall and Adamaco. But Adamaco clears Randall by 2.3 seconds heading out of the pits. And he is currently on the hard tires. So let's take a look at the tire compounds. At the moment, Nicolo Falsaresi is sitting in P2. He's on the medium tires, but he has already done 4 laps on those tires. And Tim Ventink in front on the hard tires. So I don't know whether he is trying something similar to what he was attempting in Imola, where he did the one stop and stretched the final stint so long. Ultimately, that led to him losing the lead on the final lap in the final corner due to tire wear. Could be a similar situation. It's only 5 laps that he has done on those hard tires. And Jensen Randall, just like Jerome Adamaco, out on hard tires. So I do think those two, at least, will be looking to maybe go to the end. if possible. We see a big battle here. Whoa, there's a big scrap going on here for P10. This is a train that is headed by the Ferrari of Sandro Dulis, and he is currently pulling 3 coaches. 1 Alpine, his teammate. Oh, Serpelloni. Ooh, big one there from Dion Stahl. And of course, Serpelloni is still in AI mode. So that could be why we see this congestion right here. We have a yellow flag in sector 3. That's the final corner. That looks to be one of the Haas drivers. That might be Harley Collins. Let's have a look. Has the Briton potentially damaged his front wing? I do still spot... So, no, I don't spot anything. There is no front wing on that Haas. So that is why we had the yellow flag. He might have crashed into the pit wall on pit entry. So that's very unfortunate for Harley Collins. Meanwhile, Tim Venting continues to lead. He has a gap down to Nicola Falsaresi of 4 seconds. And Jerome Adamaco ominously in the background of the Italian. He will be looking in his mirrors and just seeing the silver arrow closing up with every single corner. Adamaco posts the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I tried to say race and Grand Prix in the same sentence there. That doesn't work. So we see a big wide moment there for Falsaresi heading through turn 1. And Adamaco, he is lurking in the background. Does he go for the move? Oh, he does think about it, I think. But the Williams closing the door. And here we go. This is gonna be a simple drive-by move for Adamaco. And now his hunt is 4.2 seconds, just about. So we see Nick van Gelder, multiple penalties or multiple warnings lands you a 3-second time penalty there for the Dutchman as he heads to the pits. He's currently down in P15. So 1 Red Bull riding high in the podium spots, 1 fighting to even get into the points. Very polarizing incidents here. As Jerome Adamaco picks up a 3-second time penalty, that is most likely for track extending too many times. And that makes the job a little bit more tricky for the German. We have seen him overcome bigger penalties in the past as Harley Collins has left the session and we have a safety car. So Harley Collins has crashed, and I do actually see where it is. We are just coming past the place where Harley Collins went off. Track marshals have already rescued the car. So most likely worn tires. Well, they're not going to be worn. He just pitted a couple of laps ago. But regardless, as Jack Richards picks up a 3-second time penalty, we see the mid-pack making their pit stops. So this could play or put a bit of a screwdriver into things here. Whatever that means. Oh, big moment there for Alexei Koivuniemi heading out of the pits, almost outbraking himself heading into the crossover tunnel and almost slamming his front wing into the barrier. So what does that mean? Let's have a look. So the mid-pack from Koivuniemi, Torre, Brito and Richards have all made a pit stop under this safety car period. And this is a train that stretches just out of the points in this case. So could we see one of those drivers maybe make a charge through the field once we get back to green flag racing? We are probably going to have just about 10 laps to go as we see Tim Venting going into the pits, getting that second stop out of the way. Jerome Adamaco follows him in. And same with Falsaresi. What about Randall? Dion Stahl picks up a 3-second time penalty. Randall heads to pit road as well. So the front 4 electing to box under this safety car period. What about Jägerström? Make that 5. Let's see if Dulis follows them in. And what tires are they going on to? So the front four, they have gone on to hard tires. Dulis decides to stay out. So driver's still heading out of the pits, so we have neutralized this race. Jägerström heads on to the medium tires, so he's going to be at an advantage compared to the front five, which Dulis just creeping ahead of the Dane on pit exit. So that makes things a little bit interesting here. We're going to get the field bunched up here on the tail end of lap 17. We are just going to have, I think we're going to maybe have around 10 laps of pure racing to go to the end. The mediums could potentially go that distance, but the state of them once we get to the latter part of the Grand Prix could be up in the air, which is why I think Jägerström, he needs to make good progress pretty quickly if he wants to make this strategy work. But it has kind of helped Tim Venting a little bit in this situation. It puts pressure on Jerome Adamaco because he cannot afford to lose too many positions off this start if he gets a pole run. Because remember, he has that 3-second time penalty. Now obviously we don't know with the other drivers if they have multiple warnings racked up, and we're just one warning away from potentially getting a penalty for one of the other drivers. That is something we don't know. But at the moment, as it stands, Adamaco would fall way down. Now obviously we are going to see him potentially be very aggressive on this restart. But safety car restarts are, well, they are more tricky and more difficult than, say, a race start. Because you can't go when you want to. You have to look at the car in front of you if you are following the leader. Tim Venting in this situation is going to be in the prime position to maybe get the jump on Adamaco. Maybe. Well, he will be hoping maybe that one of the drivers behind Adamaco could make their way past the Mercedes. Oh, this is exciting. And at the moment, apart from Adamaco, no one in the top 10 has a penalty. Now, if we move outside of the top 10, however, pretty much everyone except for Serperoni in P13. I do not know whether or not he has returned and taken control of his car, or if that is still an AI currently running in P13. If so, the drivers from P14 down will need to be very careful and very cautious on this safety car restart. We saw what it can do in Las Vegas last year when Sandro Dulis unfortunately had to, or he lost connection rather, going into a safety car period, and then following the safety car create a lot of chaos, mainly because they are so difficult to overtake. They are very unpredictable, these AI drivers. But we take one more lap of safety car. We see there's two cars who currently haven't pulled up to the back of the train. It is the Red Bull of Van Gelder and the Kick Sauber of Samanidis, who we are just waiting for. And with every single lap that we stay under safety car condition, it just gets better and better for Tim Venting. We see Robin Herstadhagen gets a 10-second time penalty for colliding with Serperoni's AI. Now that is definitely going to get rescinded post-race. And the reason I could say that so confidently is because I have experienced the exact same incident at this exact same track, as a matter of fact. So that is why I confidently say to Herstadhagen that penalty does not count for anything. So that is up in the air. But as always, The race results are obviously provisional. We also saw a big change from last weekend's Grand Prix, as a matter of fact. Latrella, who originally finished in P3 on track, got a post-race 10-second time penalty, I believe it was, as we get the notification that safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. But yeah, Latrella got a post-race penalty for causing a collision at the start of the race. That meant he dropped from P3 all the way down to P4. So do make sure that you head over to Instagram and follow us on @SRL_F1, because that is where all of these updates and notifications will be posted. But we see the front drivers are warming their tires, getting ready for this race restart. And now it is Tim Venting who dictates when we go green again. So what does the Red Bull man have planned here? He waits an awful long amount of time. And he still hasn't got... There he goes! He plants the throttle. And we are green again. And we see a big off there for... That is one of the V-Carbs. They are not in contention. And Adamaco manages to stick with Venting crucially for his race. Meanwhile, Falsaresi is under a bit of pressure from behind. That is Jensen Randall. And speaking of pressure, Sandro Dooley's, he'll be seeing in his mirrors. Alongside him goes Jamie Jägerström. He is on those mediums, remember. So he has the tyre advantage here on the restart. But we see Venting has retained the lead. Sandro Dooley's, is he going to come back at Jägerström heading into the chicane? He tries it, but it doesn't work, as we see a move there for, well, an attempted move, that is. It might be working here for Ivan Brito. We have a three-way fight here. But Vincenzo Torre manages to defend himself there pretty well, so no problem there. Meanwhile, Jägerström has left the drivers behind him for good. We see Pablo Bars. What tyre is he on? He's also on the hards, so no tyre advantage apart from the laps run for Sandro Dooley's or Pablo Bars. And there's a big amount of pressure as Tim Venting posts the fastest lap of the race so far, so he has good pace, it seems. Big pressure here on Pablo Bars from Alexei Koivoniemi. I do wonder, are we going to see a fight here? The gap is 0.8 of a second. So we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. That is for Dion Stahl, who's gone wide into Turn 1. And Adamaco heading on to lap 21. He has the DRS on Tim Venting. But one thing is closing up. We've said it so many times before. One thing is to close up, another is to pass. But he gets 2 attempts here. That's the beauty of this track. If you don't get it the first time, you get a second try. And it looks as if, is he going to pull ahead? He is going to pull ahead. So Jerome Adamaco takes the provisional lead of the Grand Prix, but he has that 3-second time penalty, remember. So he needs to pull the gap. And I do wonder if... Oh, that's a corner cut for Tim Venting, though. So he will be riding those warnings all the way to the finish line. Can't get my words out here. But all Venting needs to do, realistically, is to stay within DRS range of Jerome Adamaco till the end of lap 29, or at least just stay within 3 seconds of the German and avoid at all costs getting a penalty himself. So Venting, similar gap to what Adamaco had previous lap when he made that move for the lead. So Venting is going to have the DRS advantage here. Meanwhile, at the back, we see Falsaresi has lost the position to Jensen Randall. And we have a big fight here going on between Dulis, Bars, Koivoniemi. There's a big train here, so I do not think this is going to finish in the order that we see at the moment. We're just going to leave the front two for now, because this is really exciting. Here comes Pablo Bas on Sandro Dulis. He swings to the outside. What is this going to do for him? Oh, this camera work is ass, but who cares? Pablo Bas moves into P6 ahead of Sandro Dulis, and those tires right now, they might only be 5 laps older than the drivers around him, but Dulis at the moment is suffering on those tires. The next driver to put pressure behind is Alexei Koivuniemi in the Alpine. You can see the tire advantage that, or rather disadvantage, that Dulis has. Bas, in just those corners, manages to pull clear of the Greek-German in the Ferrari. He still has the DRS though, so this is not going to be as easy for Koivuniemi, but you see the amount of traction that the other drivers around him are capable of pulling. Saying that though, Bas is defenseless here heading into the chicane. Is Dulis going to try something? Doesn't look like it, but we have a move. Oh, that is not a clean move from Ivan Brito. Heading into the chicane. It did look like a bit of a late braking move. And Tim Venting has done the one thing he shouldn't have done. He has picked up a 3-second time penalty. And crucially for Adamaco, it is at a time where Venting has fallen out of the DRS range on the Mercedes. So at the moment, I do not even know. Wait, let's have a look here. At the moment, this would mean that Tim Venting drops to P3 behind Jensen Randall. Randall is sitting right on the cusp of potentially grabbing victory if he can just claw a couple of tenths into Adamaco's lead. So this is getting very exciting. We have a stranded V-carb. That might be Senna Hervaya in Sector 3. We're not going to cut to it, because there's a big scrap going on here between Sandro Dulis, who's trying to overtake Pablo Bas for P6, while trying to defend from a very hard-charging Alexei Koivuniemi. Is this going to be a Häkkinen-Schumacher situation? Oh my days! And Alexei Koivuniemi swings to the outside. Is he going to get a 2-for-1 here? Oh, this is brilliant racing between the three of them. As we see who has the DRS, it's Koivuniemi and Bas who has the DRS advantage. As Dulis attempts to defend, but it proves futile, and after all of that, we head out of the long sweeping left-hander as we went into this fight. That is brilliant from these three drivers. Very clean and respectful driving between the three of them. And we almost had a similar situation to Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen at the Belgium Grand Prix. Granted, this was not a lapped car, but it was a car that was moving significantly slower. And quite funnily enough, we have a half German in the Ferrari as well in that situation. Granted, Mika Häkkinen was driving a McLaren, so we do have to look past those details, but it included a Finnish driver and included the McLaren, and it included a half German in a Ferrari. So the throwback is insane. Are we going to get round 2 here? We're just going to stick with this battle right now, because this is brilliant racing. Here comes Dulis. He has the DRS advantage once again, and he doesn't go for the move. He thinks about it on Pablo Bas, but it wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite there. And here comes Dulis. Look at the overspeed. Which way does he go? He goes... Oh! Pablo Bas makes him think twice about it, but Dulis makes it past on the inside of the McLaren. McLaren is almost pushing the Ferrari through that corner. This is a brilliant little fight we have going on here. Oh, big lock up there for Saperoni, who I can only imagine has regained control of his own car. Senna Hervey, another penalty. But in reality, what does one add to a forest? That did not make any sense. Who cares? Sandra Doolis at the moment keeps P6. We are on lap 26 out of 29. But this battle does not look like it is dying down. And all of this battling has invited pretty much everyone between P6 all the way down to P13 into this battle. Now granted, P11, 12 and 13 are all carrying penalties, so they are very unlikely to gain anything from this. But this is anyone's game. Here we go. Pablo Baz has the DRS on Sandra Doolis. It's not going to be this time around. Are we going to see anyone else attempt a move? No. But what about here? Pablo Baz running very wide. Is he going to be vulnerable here to Koivuniemi? Because he got a pretty poor run, but it doesn't look like anyone is going to improve a position or two. But this is a great little battle we have going on here, and this is helping the top 5 streak away ever so slightly. Doolis is probably pulling the longest train I've ever seen. Well, pretty much since Jarno Trulli was in Formula 1. And back then we called them Trulli trains. I do not know what we can call this. But Pablo Baz putting the pressure on here. He is not done. Lap 27 out of 29. And the Doolis Express continues to run through the night here at Yas Marina Circuit. And Pablo Baz, he's... Oh, there was an attempt there from Koivuniemi on the inside. Very close there from the Finnish Alpine. Now into the chicane we go once again. Baz is not making a move. Koivuniemi is not making a move. And neither is Serpelloni. A good run out of this chicane is crucial. Baz gets a pretty decent run, it seems. Does he have the energy stored up to launch an attack on the back of Doolis? No, not this time around either. You see the rear lamp flashing. That means that the cars are recharging. So I do think we might see an attempt in a couple of laps, but they are running out of laps. This is the end of lap 28. Or is it the beginning of lap 28? Oh, big move there. Ooh, almost heartbreak for Doolis. Heading into the penultimate corner. But this is the beginning of lap 28 for these drivers. Doolis with a big moment there. Clouding over the curb. And there's a stricken... Is that a V-carb? I think that might be a V-carb. Here, as we move through here. He's not going to get in the way of this battle right here. Koivuniemi making a big attempt there, but Baz is close here. We are through the yellow flag zone, so overtaking is back on. Samanidis has retired. We're not going to get a safety car. What does Pablo Baz do? He stays behind Doolis. And at the moment, Doolis is doing everything that he needs to do. This has been a brilliant defensive maneuver. Brilliant defensive drive from Doolis. To the outside goes Baz, but it's not quite enough. And does that invite Koivuniemi into the fight again? Not quite. Not quite. But Baz is putting the pressure on. The leaders have started the final lap, I think. At least I think so. Not sure. Samanidis has retired from this race. And the leaders have begun their final lap. We see Jerome Adamaco at the moment. He's leading Tim Venting by 2.7 seconds. Who himself is just about 2 seconds ahead of Jensen Randall. Falsaresi in P4. Jägerström by his lonesome in P5. So the Williams pairing is going to pick up good points here again today. But this fight is by no means done. This is going to run all the way to the flag. And it looks as if Pablo Bas may have made a small mistake through Sector 1. He is vulnerable to Koivuniemi heading into the chicane. We're just going to follow this battle for now. Koivuniemi to the inside. Does he make the move? Oh, Bas cuts across his front wing, but doesn't get the defensive maneuver done properly. And Koivuniemi forces the McLaren into a bit of an awkward situation. Here we go. What is Koivuniemi going to do? He's forced to the outside. Here comes Serpelloni. Oh, and Koivuniemi is pushing through that corner, but Jerome Adamako wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Tim Venting gets demoted to P2 due to the penalty. Jensen Randall finishes P2. Venting P3. Then it is Falsaresi in a P4 spot. And Jägerström, his teammate, in P5. Sandro Dulis, after a very long fight, comes home to finish P6 ahead of Pablo Bas. Then it is Alexei Koivuniemi in P8. Vincenzo Torre picks up 2 points in P9 due to penalties. And Serpelloni, on his debut in SRL, picks up 1 point for VCARB. So good on the Italian to do that. And Jerome Adamako, you almost want to say he is inevitable, because at this point he is just bullying everyone. And when we just thought that safety car came at a very awkward time for the German, ooh, he made it work, as he usually does. So that marks another victory for the German, and his championship lead, due to that penalty for Tim Venting, extends by quite a few points, as a matter of fact. So good on the German and on the Mercedes team. And Jensen Randall, we haven't actually seen him up on the podium that much this season, so good to see the McLaren man back on the podium. And maybe this is the beginning of his charge back to potentially grab a respectable finishing position in the championship. And commiserations for Tim Venting. But here's your unofficial result. It is Adamako ahead of Jensen Randall. Then it is Venting rounding out the podium. And then we have Falsaresi and Jägerström P4 and 5. Dulis with that impressive drive finishes P6 ahead of Pablo Bas, Alexei Koivuniemi, Vincenzo Torre, and then it is Alessandro Serpelloni in P10 on his debut, picking up the final point, at least from what we know so far. But as we always say, these results are provisional. They are due to change if the stewards find anything that could be incriminating post-race. So make sure you head over to our Instagram at SRL_F1 and make sure you follow us there for all of the latest news regarding SRL. And what a race! Oh wow! We had a bit of drama, but ultimately it meant nothing for Jerome Adamako. And in the end, the fight that was the most exciting to follow ended up being the fight for P6. Who would have known? But that concludes round 7 of the SRL Formula 1 World Championship here at Abu Dhabi. But we're not going anywhere, because next weekend we are back with round 8, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and that is of course at Baku, the street circuit with the longest straight in Formula 1 at the moment. So that is definitely something to look forward to. It is a race that usually throws a pretty exciting finish to itself, so make sure that you tune in for that. And if you enjoyed today's race, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we do have a lot of races coming up here just before Christmas. As I mentioned, Azerbaijan Grand Prix next weekend, and then the weekend following that we have the last race of the GT3 season for this season 5. So make sure that you do not miss that. And I think with that, we're just going to conclude today's live stream. It's been enjoyable as ever to do commentary for you. And hopefully I see all of you, and maybe even some more of you, for next week's race. My name is Sam. It's been a joy. And until we see each other again, have a wonderful Saturday, have a wonderful week, and goodbye.